Israel has stopped all flotilla missions since 2010.
The mediator capital is Qatar itself, and it just got hit, but with little consequences.
Despite the complete embargo, Israel still can operate certain things, still can function.
Well, we're going to have to separate now between Semitism and a matter of geopolitics.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. I'm Amalina Kamal.
And I'm Hazwin Hassan. Today's discussion dives into critical intertwined developments currently shaking global diplomacy and humanitarian efforts. First, Israel's strike in Doha. On September 9th, Israel launched a targeted airstrike on a gathering of Hamas officials in Doha, Qatar, who were considering a US-backed Gaza ceasefire proposal. The strike killed 5 people, including the son of a senior Hamas leader, and placed crucial negotiations in jeopardy. Russia has condemned the strike as a gross violation of international norms. Turkey, too, branded it a violation of sovereignty and accused Israel of adopting terrorism as a state policy. And the UK's Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, denounced the strike as a threat to regional stability and urged an urgent ceasefire and more humanitarian support.
And the next, we focus to the Global Sumud Flotilla, a massive civilian-led initiative from over 44 countries aiming to break the maritime blockade of Gaza and open a humanitarian corridor. Now, recently, one of their ships docked in Tunisia was attacked by a drone in a suspected strike, as organizers reported. Now, while organizers accuse the Israeli military of orchestrating the drone strike on their aid vessel, the Tunisian authorities denied any attack occurred and cited that internal causes for it was a fire. But let me just get this straight. It wasn't just once, it was twice within 2 consecutive days. And of course, together with us, we have Encik Azman Hamid, NST's senior editor, to tell us what is at stake, especially when it comes to the Gulf region. Welcome, Azman, to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Encik Azman, of course, when we look at the strike first, right, what happened in Doha, what might this mean, actually, especially for any hopes of a ceasefire? And is a denouncement of the allies, Israeli allies, enough?
First of all, it's a surprise, and it's not a surprise. It's a surprise, of course, because I don't think anybody expect Israel to be so brazen as to attack an ally of the US also. But it is not a surprise in the sense that since October 7, Israel has been attacking not just, latest is Qatar, but there's Lebanon, there's Yemen, there's Iran. So this latest episode is, I would say, an Israeli, we should not be surprised at all by now what Israel is doing. And the fact that in Washington itself, there is no words of discouragement or a warning, at least, to say that you have to stop.
Yeah, exactly, because we're actually still expecting Trump or the White House to give a full statement, right? I mean, he did mention very briefly, that he didn't agree with the strike at all. But a few days earlier, he was very, clear that they want the hostages back. Otherwise, there will be full action being taken. And then when press asked the White House in the form of what happened in Qatar is an example of one, then they actually denied it. So it's a bit confusing there, right?
Yeah. See, when it comes to Israel, you cannot expect sort of very impartial decisions in Washington. You have to expect that there will not be a criticism of Israel at all. It kind of indirectly criticism of in indirect manner. I read something heading by a Wire report yesterday, I think, that that explains it all very plainly, very obviously. Two words, rare rebuke. Rare rebuke by Washington towards Netanyahu. What it is rare, and it's just a rebuke. So what do you expect? Things there's no consequences against Israel at all for them to stop, and Israel itself have said that they will continue. They will keep on doing this until there are no more Hamas leaders anywhere. That itself is a warning towards the other countries in the region.
That is probably trying to not even stand on behalf of Hamas, but having to mediate the situation right now. Because again, I do want to highlight that the mediator capital is Qatar itself, and it just got hit, but with little consequences that we are seeing.
I have to say that what is important for people to know and recognize that Qatar is doing this is as a mediator. Qatar was asked by both the US and Israel to be the mediator in terms of not just Palestinians or Hamas, but in other issues as well.
Sure.
So it is the fastest way to kill negotiations by doing what Israel has done.
So you do agree that this conflict, or at least it will expand to just beyond Gaza alone?
It has expanded, as I said. Yemen, Iran, Lebanon, Syria, Israel have done so many attacks against these countries that this crisis is not just Hamas itself after October 7. It's in all the region has been affected, and so far, no consequences at all against Tel Aviv.
And where does this put Qatar now? Because it puts them in a very difficult position, being a close ally of the US. They've been struck by Israel here, effectively now putting their position as mediator on the line. Would this, and I've got two questions from this, would this mean that there's a possibility of Qatar protecting its own sovereignty and wage war against Israel if it has to? And on the back of that, what is the Gulf country, the GCC, what are they doing about this now? Are they banding together now? As you said, it's spread to so many countries in that region already, but why is the GCC still seen rather silent on this?
I'd say that relations, not with Israel, but more towards the US. These countries has had good relations with the US over the years. And with Trump, they have been in very good relations, but they have to decide. Not just Qatar, but GCC has to decide what is it that they need to do to counter any such things in the future. And I'm not encouraging violence, of course, but the thing about Iran comes to mind, the 12-day tit-for-tat attacks between Iran and Israel recently comes to mind. And of course, not saying that GCC should take that step, but there must be a limit to what an outside force can do against you. Sovereignty is one thing, right? A country have the right to manage their own affairs without any outside intervention or force or aggression. And so Qatar and GCC will have to make it clear where they stand on this issue and actually act on whatever it is they decide to do. If not, if they don't do what Iran did just recently,
right.
Israel will keep doing what it is going to do.
Do you think street level solidarity is enough? I mean, should the Gulf nation, or at least whoever inhibits it, be focused on ensuring that at least security tech cooperation with Israel is blocked. I mean, if you can't talk about economic sanctions, but at least on that front alone, because I do know that there was an Israeli team that was supposed to be featured in Dubai for an arms or defense expo, and they were denied entry. That caused so much drama, in a sense, on the Israeli front, because it seems like they don't know what they did. But then we see all this news breaking. So how can we ensure that the level of solidarity is not just on the ground, but it's also in industry level?
I think, given what the reaction has been since October 7, worldwide there has been a groundswell of support for the Palestinian rights. And I think the best way for the governments of the region is follow what the street is saying to you, because the people of the region don't want such a thing to be continuing. They will get the support of the people. I mean, even in Israel itself, the people there wanted Netanyahu to stop. And even at least recently, 2 days back, I think, in the report saying the Israelis have even told Trump to stop their government to do what they has to not repeat this thing. It has been going for what, 2 years plus since October 7? There is no need to do this anymore.
But Washington has not been distancing itself, though, with Israel policies. Yep. I mean, you still have those lobbying groups in America itself, right?
When it comes to the U.S. itself these days, I mean, just yesterday, or was it today, one right-wing activist was killed.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk. Yeah.
Oh, he was a very avid Trump supporter as well, and pro-Zionist, yes.
So, U.S. itself, in a way, is not stable. The president, if you look at his poll numbers, has been quite very, very low. Yeah. And a lot of people have changed their minds about him, in the sense that the economy, in the sense of not being involved in foreign conflicts. Yeah. So you yourself have said, I'm going to stop the Ukraine war from day one. What has Ukraine conflict is still on there, still continuing. And you still remember that Trump himself describing that, he wanted Gaza to be the Riviera or something.
Yeah, the prime real estate.
Prime real estate. What does that tell you, about him?
Now, Azman, on Trump's political mileage, which obviously is not polling well right now over this issue, because his own main base, his voters, are divided over this issue, particularly the Christian conservatives. Because on the one hand, you have people like Charlie Kirk, who himself is he's a staunch Christian, he's an evangelical. And I know there's a rise of those sort of Christians in the US, who's also very pro for a Jewish state. And he's the sort of person who will argue that Palestine does not have the right to exist, or that Israel, the Jewish state, has the right over that, right? And it's very polarizing, because you've got those Christians who are like Charlie Kirk, but then you also have Christians, conservatives, who voted Trump into office, who didn't want any of this, essentially. They were promised no more wars, no more meddling in foreign conflicts, foreign affairs, or policies like this. So as you see it, and to be fair to the Trump voter base, even within that demographic, the divisiveness is very clear here, and you can see why and what is fueling it.
Well, when it comes to, you mentioned the word divisive. Divisive, probably the word that describes the current state of affairs in U.S. precisely because of what the United States President has to say day to day in his Truth Social. He touches a lot of things, kinds of bounces all over the place. He's not set on any certain policy or any certain way of doing things. Today might be immigrants, tomorrow might be sending troops to Chicago, the next day will be about stopping foreign wars. So his base, they themselves are not sure where are they heading.
Yep.
You know, so if we think that they are confused, actually they are not only confused, but they are asking themselves, have we made the right choice?
I'm just reminded of this whole Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz engagement, right?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson is one of those young Christian, very, how do I say this, conservative, but do not see Israel as the benchmark of how Christians supposed to act.
He's one of those who doesn't want the US channeling more money into something that's not, because you've got a lot of people, especially within the conservative demographic in America, whether they're Christian or not, who are absolutely against, giving money to a country where's it, what's in it for us? Because they're never giving anything back in return.
The same goes Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, the other representative. Recently, Tucker Carlson, I think that was 2-3 weeks or last month, he met a group of young Americans and have a debate with them, whatever, anything goes. And he talks about this, about why they are spending money when in this kind of situation when Americans at home are homeless. Americans in the US has other issues, other bigger issues, cost of living. So he was asking the young generation, and he was applauded because he said simply, we shouldn't be doing this.
That's right.
The president has said he's not going to do this, but he has made a U-turn of, and America is suffering, I think, image-wise, probably, and it's quite damaging to Trump, I think.
It is.
Not to mention the Epstein files.
His name was
among other things, among other things.
Thanks to Elon Musk, who sort of
Elon Musk,
brought back to the fore, because it was kind of forgotten for a while. But because of their feud.
In the first Trump administration, there was some Trump 1.0. I think it started off, for the whole term, it hasn't been quite as chaotic like Trump 2.0. First year already we have seen so many things happen, and not to mention he himself is a targeted attempt on his life also during campaigning. What has changed probably is because what he said during the campaign and what he has done are two different things, and what has been borne out from his tariffs, his policies on immigration, on crackdown on immigrants, on sending troops into American cities, has been, I'd say, it's an overreach of his presidential powers. It's like, why are Americans themselves are being victimized? So I'd say he has to change his slogan, not make America great again. If he values what do you call that?
Land of the free, liberty.
Yes, all those things. You should make a movement of make the world great again, not just make America great again.
Because America started out with that grounding, right? with a story of migrants having to seek opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah.
So equal.
The American dream.
That's
So
true.
where is the American
The
dream
irony.
now?
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, just pulling the discussion back to our topic and to deepen the understanding, here's a clip from our conversation with Dr. Ahmad El Mohammadi, who weighs in on the geopolitical fallout following the strike on Qatar.
Right, Doctor. Thank you so much for joining me on this particular call. Of course, the latest on Israel and the Doha strike. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu himself defended the airstrike in Doha by explicitly equating it with the US response to 9/11. Now, of course, when we use such a term, right, when we equate that akin to 9/11, Netanyahu said it's a global mandate to target Hamas. How might it actually redefine international norms on state sovereignty here?
Thank you very much, Amalina. It is quite interesting to discuss this issue on exactly the date. The date today is 9/11. Is I think that United States will commemorate the event. So when Netanyahu is invoking 9/11 equivalent to 9/11 as a threat to Israel, it is actually he is, I would say, is a master of manipulation of a narrative. Netanyahu is a quite interesting figure in my view because he understands American sentiment. When he speaks about 9/11, he's not addressing the global community. He's specifically addressing American public to rally support for him in this regard. So that is one thing that we can see very clearly. And the second point is, if you look at the attack which is carried out by the Israeli forces, it is not the first time. We have similar situation, for example, in 1997, when Khalid Mashal was sitting there as the head of Hamas. Israel sent a 6-man team operative to the capital city of Jordan to carry out an operation in which, during that time, actually, Jordan is in the talk of having a peace agreement with Israel. And of course, Jordan is known for the close ally of the United States, and then in support of the President Clinton. Then he moved towards a peace agreement with Israel. But Netanyahu also, actually, during that time, was the prime minister. He sent a team to assassinate Khalid Mashal, the same person that is going to be trying to assassinate in Doha a couple of days ago. And it wasn't successful. And then he has to make a serious concession. And then let me cite another example. In Dubai, I think in 2010, he assassinated successfully Mahmoud Abbas, the Hamas, the co-founder of the Brigade Al-Qassam, successfully assassinated him. But in these two particular cases, he failed. But I think that we can conclude then the third point I'd like to mention is that it sends a signal that we can go anywhere in the world. You cannot hide it. And we can go to the extent of any countries that become the allies of the big power, like Qatar, like Jordan, and anywhere in the world. That's sending a signal to Hamas, and also sending a signal to any countries that hosting Hamas leader that you are not immune, you are not safe from they call it the long hand of Israeli justice. That's the term that they use domestically.
Do you foresee Qatar actually reshaping alliances in the Gulf? For instance, now, disassociating themselves with the US and more towards Iran, China, Turkey, who has been quite neutral in this stance as well.
At this point, I think it is quite premature to see what is the development. But what I can say right now, definitely the Arab nation in Middle East rallying around Qatar. And I think that is reflected or indicated by the presence of many Arab leaders visiting Qatar and then offering condolences to Qatar and try to pacify Qatar. And I think United States also being caught in a very, very tightrope, very difficult situation. In one hand, to protect the interests of Israel and being a naughty boy in the Middle East, but they cannot reign Israel at all. And at the same time, to make sure that Qatar is continuing to be giving cooperation to both the American bases in the Middle East. So I would say at this point, American is pleading, persuading Qatar to apply or to practice the self-restraint. Don't do anything yet, And I believe that another thing is Israel has to make certain concession after this. I'm not sure what it is because based on the past experience, we can see that he has to make a concession whenever the field operation like this happens.
Yeah, so earlier we had also a separate discussion on studio. We were just talking about how the Israeli ambassador in the United States have visibly, expressively is also saying that they won't kowtow to US needs. For instance, like if Israel is doing whatever it's doing on the right and basis of defending itself. So what is the situation right now? Even with pressure from its greatest ally, which is the United States, they're not taking consideration. They're still attacking, and even after the Qatar strike, they've attacked Iraq. So where are we going next, actually, with this?
We have international laws in place just to govern the conduct of the state, of countries in relationship with others. We respect certain things in relationship with other countries, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and so on and so forth. In this particular case, Israel they believe in one thing. They believe in one principle, exceptionalism. For them, everything is an exception. For Israel, it is an exception. And they would use it. They would invoke this exceptionalism in many cases. They invoke historical exceptionalism. For example, in the case of Europe, they would say that Europe has sacrificed the Jewish people for 6 million during the Holocaust during World War II. We are not going to repeat that again. And then therefore the Europe will back down and Europe will say, fine, we keep quiet. And then they will invoke the military exceptionalism by attacking any countries that become a threat to it. And then they would invoke the policy exceptionalism as well in this case, attacking any country. No one has ever done this in this particular time, except, I think, no retaliation has taken place, except Iran, except Houthi. I think these two groups actually retaliating before, but not the state like Qatar. I don't think they would do, but they still have some kind of reservation. Say that Qatar has the right to self-defense as well. If Israel invoke the same principle of self-defense, we're going to do the same thing. So this is a very uncertain situation and very unpredictable at this point.
Understood. But more realistically, pressure would then come through coordinated diplomatic sort of condemnation. So are we looking at sanctions? Can we finally look at sanctions?
Well, the world has sanctioned Israel since October 7th, since the attack against Gaza. But I think the pressure is more, I think Turkey is talking about it, speak more strongly about it. And we can say the same thing, that the Russians expressing, condemn the act of atrocities against the sovereign state like Qatar. And so that one is political, diplomatic solution. The world stopped short of doing the next one, that is military solution. So far, no country, as I said, no country has ever gone to that length of retaliation or self-defense in terms of military.
So enforcement here is considered weak unless major powers choose to act in terms of not supplying more arms. Basically, complete arms embargo then.
I believe that despite the complete arms embargo, Israel still can operate certain things, still can function, still can retaliate in certain way because they have a good stock of weapons that can defend itself in many attacks in future. But definitely, these are the things that the world is doing: political pressure, diplomatic pressure, and then the sanction. But the world doesn't go to the extent of using military means to resolve this problem. Except we can see whenever they attack Iran, they attack that particular country, then there was a retaliation. We can see that very clearly.
One last question, Doctor. Going back to the strike, since it has breached Qatari sovereignty, do you think Qatar should pursue action at the UN Security Council level?
Well, I believe that Qatar is going to use all means available to protect its country. I think that after this, there would be the what they call the game changer for the country that hosting or become mediator in peace, because that is going to make any country in the world feel safe whenever you are becoming the host for parties like Hamas, for example, like Taliban, because they're gonna have a signal that you will be a legitimate target. For example, Malaysia is going to be the host for Hamas, let's say. Malaysia would be the target too. That is a particular example, of course, but that would send a signal to the world that, well, we are living in different worlds today. We have to defend our.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad El Mohammadi, for your insights. I do appreciate it, and I hope that moving forward, we can see some level of discourse that actually leads to some sort of solution, especially when it comes to de-escalating the military aggression in Gaza itself, because at the end of the day, why this happened is because of the aggression in Palestine, these Palestinian territories. Thank you so much, Doctor.
My pleasure.
Following the interview that I had with Dr. Ahmad El Mohammadi, of course, he did mention that the attack will galvanize greater regional unity against Israel. But whether or not we will likely see a polarization in terms of support from the Arab League towards Israel, because in the past, there have been normalization talks, right, to include Israel in the Gulf policy making. But that has always been a double standard there, because how can you include that without addressing the Palestinian plight? So it still leaves a very gray area in terms of what like nations such as Qatar, who's been neutral all this while, must do next.
It's the question of the ages, I think. The countries that wanted normalization, persuaded by the US, even Israel itself. You know, Israel is a colonial settler project that's been going on for over eight decades now. And in recent times, there have been movement to get Israel into a certain environment where the region will take it and move from there. Meaning they will live together. But normalization is one thing. Are you sure it's going to be normal?
When things are not normal anyway.
It is not normal, because as long as there are issues unaddressed, especially in terms of occupation of Palestinians, it's not going to be normal. You call it what you will, normalization, whatever, but it's not going to be normal. Because as again, we go back to what Israel has done since October 7. Over 65,000 deaths, now famine, starvation.
Complete blockade of needs, yes.
Complete blockade. And that is why, one of the reasons why, one of the symptoms, the world has reacted, and one of the things that the world react is by sending aid and with the flotilla and all this. And even then, if you look at the history of the flotilla, since 2010, I think, 2010, Israel has stopped all flotilla missions since 2010.
Yes, but this bigger question now is like, with this current 44 countries uniting together, going towards Gaza, right? Do you think it can actually stand a chance against Israel's military arsenal?
That is for sure very obvious. It's a flotilla. What can they do? It's a humanitarian mission. They are not sending arms. They are not trying to say we are going to attack Israel.
But they are up against.
Yes, they know what they are up against. But it's the will of the world, so to speak, that we acknowledge the plight of the Palestinians under Israel. And I think what we wanted is, or what the world wanted is, for countries, important countries, to cease funding and aiding Israel in terms of their belligerence, to stop and actually acknowledge the rights, the real rights of the Palestinians to exist and to have their own state.
Well, with reports on drone attacks that we are seeing right now, right? I'm not too sure if you know this, but what are some of the legalities that could be put at play. Let's say if you're attacked at sea or in international waters or something like that. So
I'm not sure about the legal aspect of it, but for sure it is illegal to attack any party that is not doing any harm against you. They are not coming to hurt you in any way. They are sending supplies and like the flotilla, the Sumud Flotilla this year.
But since Gaza's water is being controlled by Israel, right? So they can say, I mean, legally, they can actually say you encroach territories. Like, for instance, it's a matter of security and defense. They can say that as well.
The thing about Israel is that we must remember that it is an occupation authority, and under international law, they cannot. They must protect
who they occupy.
All inhabitants of the land, and whoever it is resisting that occupation have the rights to resist the occupation.
Yeah.
That's under international law.
So that is clear, at least in that sense.
Clear.
Okay. I mean, I do want to ask this before we wrap up this particular topic, right? Because how much of world leaders coming together, having to come up with a plan to push for peace, world peace, not just regional peace. But at the end of the day, they don't necessarily ask Israel themselves in terms of why they do not adhere or at least respect to the two-state solution. I think when we speak to the Palestinian side, right, at least the Palestinian authorities side, they have been vouching for that. Like that there is no space for discrimination when a two-state solution is in effect. Let's not talk about Hamas. Let's not talk about political factions here. Let's talk about we've got two communities now pit together. One seems to be above the other. But why do you think the two-state solution is not there yet?
The UN has already set this two-state solutions way back in the 60s. The boundary where everything is set, where how the issue should be discussed, it's already been set in the 60s. Before 1967, it should be the solution has been promoted for quite some time, but it doesn't materialize simply because Israel is not like what happened to Qatar. Israel is not doing anybody's favor. It is an entity that says, I want it all. And I guess what I'm also trying to say is that, this is counter to what probably people want to say. If to a certain degree, I agree with Thomas Friedman, who produces the book From Beirut to Jerusalem sometime back. He says Israel is the one party that has all the power in this issue. And this issue will be decided when whatever Israel decides, that's going to be what Israel does, what Israel decide, whoever it is. Because even in the present circumstances, even the ambassador of Israel to the US himself said, Israel will not go according to US interests.
Hazwin did raise a very good point earlier on, even though we were talking about US affairs, right? Because when we talk about the Palestinian and Israel conflict, people from the outside, they tend to view it as a religious sort of dispute, when actually it's more geopolitical than that. In the States, they probably might use that rhetoric of we have to protect Israel because of this whole biblical sort of like idea associated to it, right? But yes, even if, let's say, you fall under a certain ideology, where's the humanity in agreeing to everything to the point whereby kids are being starved? I mean, there is a line that you must draw somewhere, right?
Yes, yes.
I think even within our own religion, if we see some level of extremism, it is our right to say no or to question that. So it's just sad to know that this particular issue is being conflated with things that are of religious sort of arguments here.
Yeah, you can't really get away from that, because whenever anybody go to Jerusalem, it's the Holy Land. They will say it's a holy land.
But it's a holy land for
That's right.
religions,
for
right?
Muslims, for Christians, for Jews. It is not about religion per se. It's about land. I think our ex-Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir, has said some time back that it's not about religion, it's about land. But again, going back to what you said about humanity, humanity is important. I think a lot of people do acknowledge that element when it comes to international affairs. But on Palestinians, I'm very sad to say that humanity is not there to protect the Palestinians.
One thing I think that makes it very difficult is that, on the one hand, you've got your pro-Jewish state supporters. Any criticism that is thrown out there against the establishment of a Jewish state, and even if it's not confined to just the idea of a Jewish state, just the fact that Israel is a country, is that if you are against that, then that means you're anti-Semitic, which makes it very difficult, because it's almost like as if, like you rightly put forward just now, even when there's extremism in Islam, you will still have the rightful clerics and leaders who will denounce these sort of extremisms. But where you don't quite see that at least in the mainstream Jewish community. Where are the Jewish leaders coming out and saying, well, we got to have to separate now between Semitism and a matter of geopolitics here, because clearly there's one party that's just stepping all over.
When it comes to anti-Semitism, the thing is, if you look at, let's not discard, but let's put aside mainstream media, because the usual suspect will be saying what you just said, in the sense that it's anti-Semitism. I think that's the only card where it means you don't want to debate anymore. Sort of, you have lost the debate. When people argue about this issue, or you put out anti-Semitism. Right. Actually, Palestinians are Semitic people. You look at the history of all Israel leaders or prime ministers, they are not from there.
Sure. Yeah.
Their real name is not Benjamin Netanyahu. Is not his real name. It was like Milikowski or something.
Yeah, they're mostly Polish, obviously.
Yeah, Polish, Ukrainians, Polish, and the like. So
I mean, I suppose there, but then you have to factor in the history or the considerations of human migration, right? But they will go back to, but they still have ties back to the land of Israel by default of the religion itself, right? But I would concur by saying that if we want to go via that direction, I suppose we should all be moving back to Africa.
Well,
right? I mean,
well, that's another issue
altogether.
altogether.
There's a huge debate on that as well. So you might not want to get yourself into that.
No, but I'm just saying, you open one, then another kind of worms also open up. Anyway, so thank you so much, Encik Azman, for your time on this particular topic. Now, before we end the show, I just want to highlight some big news from Putrajaya. It's a legal shake-up that's been talked about for years. Now, the Cabinet has finally decided to fully separate the roles of the Attorney General and the Public Prosecutor. Now, this is a major institutional reform, and it's not just cosmetic.
Yes, that's right, Malina. Right now, the Attorney General wears two hats as the government's chief legal advisor and as the public prosecutor who decides who gets charged in court. That's raised concerns about conflicts of interest, like can you really be neutral when you're both advising the government and deciding whether to prosecute it?
So this particular move would finally split those powers. Now we'd have an AG who focuses on advising the government and a public prosecutor who independently decides on criminal charges.
Right. And this isn't just about swapping nameplates on office doors. They'll need to amend the federal constitution, specifically Articles 145, 183, and 42 or 42, and even rewrite parts of the Criminal Procedure Code and 18 other laws.
Plus, they're planning a whole new law reform, particularly the Public Prosecutor Bill, and even a special act on pay, kind of like what judges have under the Judges Remuneration Act. So it's a salary matter here.
And it's going to roll out in phases, not overnight. There's a technical task force working on all the nuts and bolts, from structure, staffing, logistics, and even the budget. And they're pulling in everyone from the Attorney General's chambers, the Finance Ministry, Public Service Department, basically the Avengers of public service. And once they're done, they'll hand the full recommendations back to the Cabinet for the green light. And only then can the constitutional amendments go to Parliament.
And it's a huge step towards making sure prosecution decisions are truly independent.
The legal fraternity today hailed the upcoming separation of powers of the Attorney General and the Public Prosecutor as a landmark reform that will ensure cases are handled based on evidence of law and not political influence. The move, they said, would enable decisions to prosecute to be made independently of the executive, removing potential conflicts of interest. Malaysian Bar President Muhammad Ezri Abdul Wahab said that currently the AG holds the role of the government advisor and the powers to prosecute, as it also helms the duties of the public prosecutor. He said once separated, the AG will continue to advise the government, but criminal prosecutions will be handled independently by the public prosecutor.
And this particular move or reform is definitely one to watch. It could be one of the biggest legal reforms in decades of Malaysian history. And on that note, let's see how quickly this can move from plan to Parliament floor.
Yep. That's right.
Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. This is unfortunately the end of our episode. If you do like this particular episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. You'll not only get NSC Beyond the Headlines update, other NSC Online's news report will be delivered to you. Now, of course, I'd like to thank again Cik Azman Hamid on the show. Thank you so much, Azman.
Thank you.
Thank you as well, Hazwin, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And to our audience, thank you so much again. We'll see you next week.